From around the world and from CBS News headquarters in New York, this is the CBS Evening News with Morton Dean.
Good evening. American officials continue to say there's strong evidence Libya has hatched an assassination plot in the United States. Various U.S. law enforcement agencies are continuing their effort to identify and locate the would-be assassins if they exist. Libya's leader, Colonel Muammar Gaddafi, claimed today there is no such assassination plot. He said it on an American television program.
If they have any evidence, we are ready to see this evidence, to see who these people who are acting behind us and behind the Libyan people to commit this crime. It is not our character, not our behavior to assassinate any person.
The State Department spokeswoman welcomed Gaddafi's denial, but said we have strong evidence that he has been plotting the murder of American officials both here and overseas. When he is stopped, she added, we will know it. President Reagan is expected to take major decisions concerning Libya this week. Recommendations from his senior cabinet officials are due to be presented on Tuesday. They will reflect, according to State Department sources, a solid consensus on the seriousness of the problem, a problem which Gaddafi suggests is a figment of the American imagination.
Always Reagan and his administration saying to their people through their TV and every broadcasting stations, Gaddafi, 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 Carlos, Libya. How you are silly people? How you are superpower? How you are afraid of this? How it is silly, this administration and this president. Reagan is silly, and he is not qualified to lead America as a superpower.
U.S. officials suggest that Mr. Reagan will have to decide basically whether Libyan behavior can be modified through normal diplomatic means or whether sterner stuff is required. These sources dismiss speculation about a U.S. naval blockade or a U.S. airstrike against Libyan bases. None of the president's advisors, they suggest, is advocating anything so extreme. The most serious measure being contemplated at this time, they say, is a U.S. embargo on imports of Libyan oil. Far more likely, on the assumption that there are no attacks on American officials over the next few days, are diplomatic moves and public warnings aimed at getting Gaddafi to change his ways, not only in regard to hypothetical hit teams, but in regard to his long-standing confirmed support of international terrorism. Bob Simon, CBS News, the State Department.
One of the American officials believed to be on that so-called Libyan hit list is the Secretary of Defense, Caspar Weinberger. Weinberger is in Italy, and he's drawing a crowd of gun-toting security officers. Ike Pappas is there and has this report.
The tight security surrounding Weinberger's trip thus far is starting to annoy the defense secretary. Said one source, he's just not used to all these guns. Weinberger was reportedly upset when dozens of Italian police carrying machine guns showed up on Capri as Weinberger tried to tour the island. But Pentagon officials responsible for Weinberger's protection are openly concerned for his safety. They became even more jittery Friday following reports that terrorist groups in Turkey might try to kill him while he was there in an effort to shake the ruling military regime in that country. Weinberger came to Italy for brief conferences with Italian and American military officials prior to attending the NATO defense ministers' meeting in Brussels Tuesday. Weinberger's aides had pushed for a stop in Greece before the NATO conference, but gave up when Greece's new socialist prime minister, Andreas Papandreou, indicated no official American visitors were welcome in Athens at this moment. Papandreou, who does not disguise his anti-American sentiments, is threatening to close U.S. military bases and pull Greece out of NATO. Weinberger was asked about this when he arrived in Naples Saturday.
I hope that would not take place. I think any time a country leaves NATO, it weakens the alliance. Every time a country joins NATO, as we hope Spain will very shortly, it strengthens the alliance. And whatever strengthens the alliance, we think is a very good thing for the cause of freedom.
Papandreou is also Greece's defense minister, and as such, he is expected to attend the meetings. Weinberger's main task in Brussels will be to determine how serious Papandreou is and to propose ways to keep him from following through on his threats. Ike Pappas, CBS News, Naples.
We have a report from Greece, a report about a series of demonstrations today, demonstrations that may have an impact on that upcoming NATO defense ministers meeting. Details from Martha Teichner.
At dark, 100,000 or more demonstrators reached Constitution Square in central Athens. They had marched all day, as much as 15 miles. Their starting points, American military bases outside the city. They chanted, "American bases out of NATO, out the American assassins." Criticism of the Soviet nuclear presence in Europe was lost in the clear anti-American tone of their message. The demonstrators represented a broad spectrum of political opinion, but the organizers made no secret of their alignment with the left. The peace movement in Greece has been given added momentum by the fact that the newly elected socialist prime minister, Andreas Papandreou, agrees with the no NATO, Americans out position. When Papandreou takes his arguments to this week's NATO talks in Brussels, where he will meet U.S. officials, he can point to the impact of tonight's demonstration as fresh evidence that the Greek people support him. Martha Teichner, CBS News, Athens.
Hello. I was a dedicated blade shaver till my wife bought me this Remington microscreen shaver because it would shave as close as a blade or your money back. The first microscreen is so thin it shaves incredibly close. The second even closer. And Remington's American made. It costs less. Norelco's imported. It costs much more. I was so impressed, I bought the company. The Remington microscreen shaves as close as a blade or I'll give you your money back. And the Lady Remington, the perfect gift, also with a money-back guarantee.
Your savings and loan has a very good reason for calling all Sabres certificates all Sabres. Even if your taxable income is $7,900, you can still get the kind of return the big boys are getting. What money market fund lets you invest just $500, guarantees a big return for a full year, and insures your money through a federal agency? What money market fund can do all that? I can't think of a single one.
A blizzard took New England by surprise and by storm today. It knocked out power, blocked roads, and closed airports. In some places, snow was 2 feet deep. Jack Hubbard has the story from Boston.
It was a bad storm, the worst since 1978, scorekeeper said. But it was Sunday. You didn't have to leave the house unless you wanted to. Skiers wanted to. Dogs wanted to. Young people without skis and dogs wanted to. And some folks couldn't face Sunday without the Sunday paper. On the other hand, it was really a bad storm for cars and people who wanted to drive cars. And it was really a bad storm for the city of Boston, which is caught in a nasty two-sided money squeeze. Pinch number one, last year's Proposition 2.5, which cut out the city's tax revenues. And pinch number two, a court ruling that the city had overcollected past property taxes and had to pay the money back. The city has asked the state legislature for relief, but hasn't gotten any yet. The result, a big squeeze on snow removal.
On a storm like this, I should have at least 110 pieces of city equipment working. I've got something like 61 right now.
The airport was closed. The real test will come tomorrow when people have to go to work. Today, across the river in Harvard Square, they greeted the snow with a song. Jack Hubbard, CBS News, Boston.
A group of skydivers was being flown to a Honolulu football game, and for the pregame show yesterday, they were to drop in. But their small plane went out of control and plunged into Pearl Harbor. At least 11 skydivers were killed. At least one is missing. Another one managed to parachute, and rescuers saved him from the water. Navy divers searched today for victims of the crash near the Arizona Memorial, the sunken battleship commemorating the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor 40 years ago tomorrow. John Lennon was murdered a year ago, but admirers are still singing his praises and his songs, and his voice has not been stilled. Tuesday will mark the anniversary of his death, and to honor his memory, a ceremony was held today at the Washington Monument. They played his music, and the speaker told them they must follow through on his message of peace and love. Lennon's widow, Yoko Ono, living in New York City, is quoted as saying, "The former Beatle was a casualty of the war between peace and violence, the war between sanity and insanity."
is entirely possible that the three words parents fear most are some assembly required. So we'd just like you to know that you can easily attach an exciting Atari home video game to your television set in under 5 minutes. That's right, 5 minutes. When you think about that, it's not surprising that Atari makes the world's most popular video game.
Aldo! This is Aldo Cella. Aldo Cella Bianco is not inhibited by social codes. He doesn't find all his friends in the social register, but he knows what people like. Cella wines, with a taste so sparkling, so refreshing, they're perfect with everything, every time, to everyone. Cella Lambrusco.
Chill a Cella.
Soviet authorities had no word today on the condition of dissident scientist Andrei Sakharov and his wife. The Sakharovs have been on a hunger strike in the city of Gorky. They were taken to a hospital Friday where it was feared their protest might be ended by force. They're trying to pressure the government to allow the wife of Sakharov's stepson to join her husband in the United States. Yesterday, the daughter-in-law tried to go from Moscow to Gorky to see them, but she was intercepted by the secret police and told not to try again. There are reports of new violence on several fronts in Iran. The leading opposition guerrilla group issued a statement from Paris charging that hundreds of Iranian political prisoners have been executed in recent weeks. There's also new fighting reported in the almost forgotten war between Iran and Iraq. Doug Tennell reports from Beirut.
Military communiques from Tehran are claiming Iranian forces have launched a new offensive to regain some of the territory lost in more than 15 months of war with Iraq. And there are indications the Iranians have scored some successes. They downed at least one French-made Iraqi warplane, one of 4 the French government admits to having sold to the Baghdad regime recently. But the Iranians are fighting on more than just one front. The official Pars news agency today reported that new clashes between government troops and Kurdish guerrillas in northwest Iran claimed 24 lives. By official Iranian figures, the wave of assassinations by underground guerrilla groups has cost Ayatollah Khomeini's regime over 1,000 supporters in recent months. Iranian television recently broadcast this propaganda film, purportedly showing an Iranian mother chastising her son for his anti-government activities on the day before his execution. Iraq's President Saddam Hussein, who toured the front during this week's hostilities, has publicly promised to cooperate with Iranian underground and exiled groups. In what some observers here say is a new strategy for the Iraqi leader, Hussein has called for the fragmentation of Iran through a series of revolts by the minority populations of the Islamic Republic. Doug Tennell, CBS News, Beirut.
Iran and the U.S. do not have diplomatic relations. Nevertheless, relations between Iranian students and American colleges continue to flourish. A new study indicates far more Iranians attend U.S. colleges than students from any other foreign country. Although the number has dropped by about 7% since last year, there are still some 47,000 Iranian nationals attending college here. A new diagnosis has been made of the federal government's ailing college loan program. It says that some 50,000 former students now in the medical health professions are seriously delinquent in repaying their college loans. Some 5,000 doctors are included among the delinquents. Because the medical professionals are not paying up, a Senate committee report claims some 5,000 students who want to study medicine won't have any government loans to help them.
So.
Know what? For intestinal gas pains and pressure, I found these Gas-X tablets so much better.
Watch. Intestinal gas bubbles are much like bubbles in beer. Add the leading antacid here, Gas-X here, and stir. 1 minute later, antacid shows little change, but Gas-X breaks the gas bubbles. They're almost gone.
For intestinal gas pains and pressure after meals, get medically proven relief. Gas-X.
Bengay Extra Strength Balm for arthritis, for times when pain seems to grip you hard. Like damp days that bring throbbing pain and icy days when joints ache hard. Ben-Gay Balm has a more powerful formula for temporary relief of minor arthritis pain and its stiffness. Strong pain relief you can trust from America's #1 arthritis rub. Break the grip of pain with Ben-Gay Extra Strength Balm.
In Paris, there's not one but several Iranian exile groups waiting for and working for the end of the Khomeini regime. The French capital also has its share of Khomeini's supporters. David Andelman reports.
Each Saturday for the past 6 months, young Iranians fighting for or against the rule of Ayatollah Khomeini have faced off along the Boulevard Jourdain on the outskirts of Paris. Between them, as reluctant referees, squads of the French paramilitary police, heavily armed with riot helmets and bulletproof vests. But only a small part of what some hope will become the latest battle of Iran takes place in the streets. The rest is waged in the minds of the many Iranian leaders who have, as Khomeini himself once did, gravitated to Paris to plot uprisings.
It is possible to make a an internal blow-up against Khomeini.
Among the first to flee here was Shapur Bakhtiar, who served the Shah briefly as prime minister. Then Abul Hassan Bani Sadr, the former president, and Masoud Rajavi, leader of the leftist guerrilla Mujahideen, and now Bani Sadr's close companion. Many relatives of the Shah, including his sister, Princess Ashraf, and her daughter, Princess Azadeh, live here, and Empress Farah is reported to be preparing to move to France from Egypt with her son Reza, the self-proclaimed heir to the peacock throne. The Iranian exiles in Paris live under the tightest security, their neighborhoods watched by police at roadblocks, in patrol boats and jeeps. Behind this screen of protection mainly from each other, the Iranians squabbling among themselves publish their tracts and proclaim their power.
We are strong enough for overthrowing this reactionary regime.
We are behind the movement in Iran, helping to organize the students, get them to, not only Iranian, but also the foreigners, to know what the reality is in Iran.
For his part, Bakhtiar minimizes the role of the street fighters.
Everyone who was against Khomeini has been nominated by media as a mujahid. That is not true, absolutely.
So, about the monarchists you told, they are the forces of yesterday, not tomorrow. So we cannot cooperate with them, and be sure.
None of the members of the royal family or other monarchists would talk before cameras, but Princess Azadeh told CBS News the people of Iran should have a free choice of government, but only after the new Shah is installed on the throne. Even with their unanimity on the need to overthrow Khomeini, the contending sides here also must admit they face one reality.
Revolution, no, it does not begin in here. Revolution always begins in the country.
David Andelman, CBS News, Paris.
A number of governors around the country are complaining that the Reagan economic program is leaving them holding the bag, that the states just don't have the revenue to go with their new responsibility for maintaining programs previously supported more fully by the federal government. Some northeastern governors got together to talk about that today, and Jane Wallace was there.
The business of the coalition of northeastern governors is how to keep their states in business. They gathered in upstate New York today to cooperate, commiserate, and confer on how to cope on their own, despite the recession, the Reagan budget cuts, and a national policy New York's Kerry calls deny-side economics.
And these are the kinds of meetings that we should have had and should be having with the president. But the president has indicated his willingness to share problems with governors, but not share revenues.
The problems facing the Northeast as a region are largely problems of age. Aging factories and industry, aging railroads and mass transit. The Northeastern governors see their road to rejuvenation in new jobs.
I made it in New York. Made in New York.
New York has launched a $2 million advertising campaign to promote itself as a state that works. The other Northeastern states have opened offices to do the same.
We used to worry about keeping the jobs that we have had. And I think now the emphasis is more not on keeping the jobs we have, but on finding jobs that we can accommodate in the Northeast.
The governors agree the future lies not in old manufacturing, but in new high-tech industries and new small businesses.
I think private business is essential to creating any jobs, and what government can do is to facilitate that of investment, of creating new jobs, but the government isn't in the business of making jobs themselves anymore.
The Northeastern governors will continue their economic summit through tomorrow, banding together to try and keep their economies warm while their Frost Belt states get the cold shoulder from Washington. Jane Wallace, CBS News, Saratoga Springs, New York.
At Harvard University, there was a lot of talk this weekend about the cold shoulder political parties and political leaders have been given in recent presidential election years. Bruce Morton reports about who did the talking and why.
What the 50 or so people at the conference talked about was how to improve the process leading up to this moment, the process of nominating a presidential candidate. A whole lot of groups are worrying about that this year. All of these, for instance. What made this group a little different is that it included not only professors, but also people, Republicans and Democrats, who had actually run presidential campaigns. And they shared a goal. They wanted to strengthen the role of the political parties.
I don't really want to go back to the good old days, but boy, they were good.
Perhaps a greater role for party leaders.
I don't believe this nonsense about equal participation. It is the most important function of political party. That is, who shall be the nominee of the party. We do have leaders, and the leaders should have a role.
One suggestion, shorten the season. Fix it so New Hampshire wouldn't have the country's first primary. Instead, the season would begin with several states having their primaries on the same day. Ex-candidate Morris Udall was for that.
We had the Hunt Commission the other day down there. They had a fellow from New Hampshire making an impassioned plea, and that there was something mystic about communication that you get at a paper mill in northern New Hampshire, changing the shift at midnight. Or a ship factory shouting to a woman over the noise of the machinery, what do you think about supply-side economics? And she's never heard of you or supply-side economics. But
Eugene McCarthy could not have challenged President Johnson in New Hampshire in 1968. He said if it were New Hampshire, Iowa, and California.
But what do you do in real life? In real life, the New Hampshire legislature has said that a week before anybody else does anything, they're going to do their deal. Now, are you telling me in real life that all that group of reporters who plan to write books about the 1984 election are not going to go?
By and large, they were for fewer primaries, more caucuses, like Iowa's, where the party members in each precinct meet to pick delegates.
I want some kind of incentives so that the party, for example, in my state, so we can try out caucuses, so we can see what happens.
They talked about possible changes for a day and a half. A formal statement will come later, but they reached some rough agreements today. Something should be done about New Hampshire and Iowa, the first caucus state. No agreement on what. Crossover primaries are bad. Only registered party members should vote in a party primary. It would be nice to see more elected officials at conventions. No agreement on how to do that either. And Congress should keep its hands off. No legislation. If the system needs work, let the parties do it. But the party professionals here are pragmatists. Their pride is in winning, whatever the rules.
But I really don't give a damn what kind of a rule it is as long as you tell me. You know, if you'll tell me what the rules are, I'll make them work. That's my job.
Bruce Morton, CBS News, Cambridge, Massachusetts.
One of the leading authors of Franklin Roosevelt's New Deal, lawyer Thomas Corcoran, died in Washington today. He was 80 years old.
Welcome to the gift graveyard, final resting place of useless gifts that were neither needed nor wanted. But there's one gift you'll never find here. It's portable, sturdy, and it lets you work and work on almost anything. It's the Black & Decker Workmate. So what'll it be this year? Another useless gift? Or a gift he can really use?
The Black & Decker Workmate. It's a gift that works for everyone.
I can't get this even. Easy, Jim.
Take your time.
Sorry, the doctor says too much caffeine makes me tense.
Well, how about some Sanka brand decaffeinated coffee?
I only like real coffee.
Sanka brand's 100% real coffee. Go ahead.
It's really good.
Now, that's a good-looking treat.
And I don't feel like a Scrooge anymore, thanks to Sanka brand.
Sanka brand. Enjoy your coffee and enjoy your holidays.
About 20,000 years ago, it's believed the ancestors of the American Indians crossed from Asia into Alaska over a strip of land that's now underwater. 20,000 years later, the culture of the American Indians has returned to Asia at an American art exhibit in Peking. Bruce Dunning reports.
What is there about the crafts of North American Indians that captures the attention of Chinese museum goers? More than you might think. In fact, the Chinese are finding similarities to their own antiquities, links to their own traditions.
It's so similar to our Mongolian people's tent.
That's the purpose of this 3-month exhibition, the first show of Indian craft and lore ever sent to China. It displays evidence that the first Americans came from Asia. Dr. Roland Force, who organized the exhibits, finds great similarities between the cultures of early Chinese and of the Western Hemisphere's first settlers.
We find that some of the designs on American Indian objects are not at all dissimilar from those we find here in some of the ancient objects in collections of Chinese antiquities.
The Chinese often seem to think they hold history's exclusive rights on jade carving, so they are astonished at the 3,000-year-old carvings from Central America. Many say they can't believe these didn't come from China.
I think the jet display, it's very good, it's very interesting. Lots of them were so similar to the Chinese jade objects.
The exhibition also includes paintings of the American West. In these depictions of the Indians, Chinese visitors say they see close similarities to China's Tibetans and Mongolians. Then, they ask if it is true that Indians are an oppressed minority in the United States. They ask what opportunities Indians have in the white man's society. Some believe that Indians still roam the prairies and dress in traditional costumes. Above all, they come, 20,000 in the first 2 weeks, to see something of America, a land that still intrigues and puzzles them. Bruce Dunning, CBS News, Peking.
And that's the news. I'm Morton Dean, CBS News, New York. Have a good evening and a good week.
Hey, look at there. Is that the Chattanooga choo-choo? Just see it shine as it heads down the line. It's got an old-time locomotive pouring smoke from the stack. When you see her chugging, there's a load down the track. See the train a-comin', it's gotta keep on running. Woo-woo, Chattanooga by Tyco.
Chattanooga choo-choo for your youngster from Tyco, of course.
As you grow older, nature depletes your skin's reservoir of vital fluids. This precious drop helps replenish that reservoir with mysterious fluids similar to those younger skin has so much of. Oil of Olay. See it penetrate, softening dryness, and feel it provide the moist climate that restores your younger, more lustrous look. Discover the secret of Oil of Olay. It can help you look younger, too.
From around the world and from CBS News headquarters in New York, this has been the CBS Evening News with Morton Dean. These stations supplied news, film, and tape to the CBS Evening News this weekend. For an update on today's events, watch the CBS Sunday Night News with Charles Osgood.
I'm Diane Sawyer. On December 7th, 40 years ago, the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor. We'll remember that day of infamy tomorrow on Morning.
This is CBS.
If you could hear what American drivers say about unleaded gasoline, you'd get quite an earful. Americans wanted an unleaded gas that didn't knock and ping, so that's what Gulf created. New Gulf Super Unleaded, the gas with guts. One of the highest octane unleaded gasolines you can buy to help get the most performance out of your car. Now, instead of an earful, Americans can get quite a tankful. New Gulf Super Unleaded, the gas with guts.
Dodge does it. First, we froze prices on 82 Dodge Omni Miser, Omni Custom, and base area.